past row, just this week, there have been 3 landslide cases. Actually 4, because I think the praying coach. Well, let's see, the praying coach. Was that also this week? Oh no, that was also this week. Shit. So I did not plan on talking about the coach, but we might as well talk about him because I came from you know, a, I come from a very religious part of this country. I myself am religious, but I'll save that to the end to talk about something else. So let's just read what happened here. The Supreme Court ruled Monday that former Washington State high school football coach had the right to pray on the field immediately after games. The 6-3 ruling was a victory for Joseph Kennedy, who claimed that the Bremerton School District violated his religious freedom by telling him he couldn't pray so publicly after the games. The district said it was trying to avoid the appearance that the school was endorsing a religious point of view. Both the free exercise and free speech clause of the First Amendment protect expressions like Mr. Kennedy's, Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote in the majority opinion, nor does a proper understanding of the amendment's Establishment Clause require the government to single out private religious speech for special disfavor. The Constitution and the best of our traditions console mutual respect and tolerance, not censorship and suppression for religious and non-religious views alike. In recent years, a more conservative Supreme Court had been inclined to view government actions, once considered to be neutral and necessary to maintain separation of church and state, as hostile to religious expression. One issue in the case, whether the coach's decision to pray in such a prominent place on the 50-yard line amounted to a private moment of giving thanks or public demonstration of his religious faith that his prayers may have felt compelled to join. Kennedy urged the Supreme Court to find that what he was acting on his own behalf, expressing his own religious views, not speaking as a mouthpiece for the school, but the school district said that the students on the football team looked up to their coach and felt coerced into doing as he did. Yeah, so one, yes, you are allowed to pray in public places, You are allowed to go to a school and just pray. Sit at your desk, pray, do whatever. Problem is, if you are an employee, things become a little different because you are in a position of power over those under you, your students, your team, your players, and they're oftentimes going to just do what you're doing. And basically that's the main issue of this, is whether kids felt coerced into joining, the prayer, which, that's a different issue of other than just praying and be like, oh no, you can't do that here. Which the school district has brought up a lot throughout the case of look, yes, we recognize he has the right to do this, but several students felt uncomfortable because they felt like they also had to pray despite not being religious. Which, me going through school. At cafeteria, I sat down with my tray, I prayed grace, and I ate. Simple as. A teacher doing that, fine, A teacher sitting, at the end of the table, fine, cool. Said grace, whatever. A teacher getting up in front of the class and just praying before class starts, a little different there. Mainly because now it's kind of encouraged in a way, because now you've taken something very private and put it in a public spot, someone's shooting outside. But yeah, and again, I come from a very religious part of the country. That happened a lot, right? We've had teachers just pray in class. We've had students pray in class. We've had prayers in the morning announcements. We've had we pray before football games. We pray before graduations. We pray before award ceremonies. We prayed a lot. We were technically not supposed to, because this wasn't just it's. Some teachers, it was I'm praying at my meal at the lunch table. Kids, y'all can talk or whatever. I'm just gonna pray. Other ones, it was like they got in front of the class, started praying. Other ones were like, all right, bow your heads with me, kids. Our Father. And it's like, ooh. And yeah, although I try not to use slippery slope arguments, this one's going to be one of those cases, because coming from parts of the school where it was still, it was very illegal to bring these subjects up in school, because there is the Jefferson's Wall of separation of church and state, or theory they're supposed to be. There wasn't much of that within my school, and we were one of the larger school districts in the state. Oh well, larger. We were decent sized for what we did, and goddamn, they are shooting. Those may be fireworks. I don't know, but yeah. And yeah, although illegal is stop teachers, and it also led to things becoming very nasty at times, because of course with Christianity there are so many different versions of it, of prayers. So whenever a teacher would lead us in a prayer, sometimes kids would say the ones that they were accustomed to, like the Our Father. For once, I am Catholic, and I went, the South is mainly Protestant. Most of my classmates were either Methodist or Baptist or Pentecostal. So my version of the Our Father was the most different. The Pentecostal versus the Baptist and Methodist was also pretty different, but 2 words versus a whole sentence, I was the first one singled out. And yeah, I was told by my teacher to pray their version, because it was the correct version. This was all in 3rd grade. So every day before lunch, we would get up, we'd say the Pledge of Allegiance, we'd pray the Our Father, and I had to pray their version of it. Otherwise, I went from the green slip in the shoe rack to the yellow slip, which was so fucked up. It's so fucked up to think about now, but at the time I was like, oh man, I don't want to get a yellow. What? I can make it. It's just the Senate, 5th grade, I also went through something similar, but it was over the morning announcements, where again, Pledge of Allegiance, prayer, and then instead of actually getting in trouble, I was giving a scalding by my math teacher, because I was my first block teacher. She would give me so much shit. She hated me because of this stuff. At this point, I was able to stand up for myself a little bit more effectively. I was able to, say like, no, I am this. I will pray this version. Fuck you. Not exactly that energy, but I was still like, I'm Catholic. This is what I pray. Okay. I remember at some point I brought it up to my mom, and then my mom was just like, "Oh, absolutely not. We're not having this We're not having this bitch dictate what prayer you're saying." But nothing much came from it, other than the teacher at some point meeting my mom and a student teacher like open house night or something. Some night where all the parents got to come meet the teachers, run through the classroom, some bullshit like that. And the teacher just stopped my mom, and she was just told her, like, do you not care about your kid's salvation? like, like some shit you don't say out loud, you know? Like some bad shit. And yeah. Again, you have the. I'm saying all that to build up this case that if the wall between church and state starts becoming more blurry, you're going to have a lot more kids have their rights trampled upon. Because I was getting in trouble from teachers when I was like 9 and 11, and literally more than that. Like I was getting in trouble for religious stuff just about every year. So yeah, but yeah, that little bit, if that separation breaks down a little bit, there's going to be some kids who are going to suffer. And there's going to be a lot more shithead teachers. And, the right makes the point of like, oh, if we even allow the word gay to be uttered in class, these kids they're not going to know, oh my God, we're going to ruin these kids' lives. Meanwhile, there's a lot of religious elements to some public schools that can also ruin these kids' lives. But they're not going to think about that because they want to make these kids religious. But hey, whatever. So, yeah. That's basically the thought coming out of this case for the Supreme Court. But that's not the only case. No. There's more. There's more cases. Another large case to come from the Supreme Court was basically now the American federal government and state governments and the American government can now prosecute people who committed crimes on native land if those crimes were committed by non-native people, which not cool. Not cool. 3 years ago, Native Americans in Oklahoma rejoiced when the Supreme Court ruled that the eastern half of Oklahoma, is on tribal land and that the state could not bring criminal prosecutions for crimes on Indian land without the consent of the Indian tribes. But on Wednesday, the court narrowed that decision, prompting an angry dissent from Justice Neil Gorsuch, the author of the 2019 decision, an ardent proponent of Indian rights. On the surface, this may look like a cut and dried case. In the aftermath of the 2019 decision, the state was no longer empowered to prosecute those accused of committing crimes on Indian territory. Only the tribal courts or the federal government could do that. And the tribal courts were generally not authorized to prosecute non-Indians. According to the federal government, the effect on that decision was a 400% increase in federal prosecutions from 2020 to 2021, with many people either not held accountable or receiving lighter sentences in plea deals. In light of that, Oklahoma's governor and attorney general asked the Supreme Court to reverse its earlier decision. The High Court refused, but on Wednesday it issued a more limited decision declaring that the state may prosecute crimes committed against Native Americans victims by non-Indians in the Indian Territory. Bottom line, power to prosecute will most likely now shift back to the state and away from the federal government. That's basically the rundown of this. And one, people are mad because of the obvious. It's stripping the rights away from tribal government, because now, despite them being somewhat autonomous, they immediately lost the right they just gained 3 years ago, all because some people, the governor said there's been an increase in crime and people are not being aren't being punished like they should be. I want them to be punished the way I want them to be punished, not the way that the local communities over there say they should be punished. Wah. And yeah, and people are particularly mad at how this came about, because now it's only targeting non-natives, right? And why is that bad? Well, basically, people were scared that how it's, these crimes are committed. Let's say a non-native person commits a crime against a native person. Well, now the state government's going to have to step into that. Well, what's generally going to happen? People are scared that the I can't think of the word. So let's just say the crime doer is going to get a lighter sentence because of that. And let's say, like, if it's an assault, let's say the assaulter is going to just get a lighter sentence, and the assaulted is just going to have to just deal with that. People are scared that's going to happen, or that they may be acquitted in general. And it gets a little more infuriating when it comes to stuff like monetary, like robbery and stuff like that. Because now, let's say someone is robbed, a native person is robbed by a non-native person. Now the court can just say guilty. Oh, we're going to pay you back? No. No. Fuck you. So that's mainly the two big reasons. People are scared that things are going to be handled very, very poorly. And also that now that the autonomy the little bit of autonomy they just gained is also lost. So awesome, great. That's great, Excuse me. But yeah, there is that. But there's also another landslide case. This is the one that really caught my attention. I'm pretty sure those are fireworks. I'm pretty sure. I'm not gonna. Yeah, they gotta be. It's July 2nd. Those are fireworks. But unless you're celebrating this Supreme Court decision for some ungodly reason. Supreme Court limits EPA in curbing power plant emissions. Yep. In a blow to the fight against climate change, the Supreme Court on Thursday limited how the nation's main anti-air pollution law can be used to reduce carbon dioxide emissions from power plants. In a 6-3 vote with conservatives in the majority, the court said that the Clean Air Act does not give Environmental Protection Agency broad authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions from power plants that contribute to global warming. Wonderful. The decision, said environmental advocates and dissenting liberal justices, was a major step in the wrong direction. A gut punch, one promoted. Meteorologists said at the time of increasing environmental damage attributable to climate change amid dire warnings about the future. The court's ruling could complicate the administration's plans to combat climate change. Its detailed proposal to regulate power plant emissions is expected by the end of the year, though the decision was specified to the EPA that it was in line with conservative majority skepticism of power plant regulatory agencies and sent a message on possible future effects beyond climate change and air pollution. The decision put an exclamation point on a court term in which conservative majority, bolstered by 3 appointees of former President Donald Trump, also returned nearly 50-year-old nationwide to abortion, expanded gun rights, and issued major religious rights rulings, all over liberal dissents. President Joe Biden aims to cut the nation's... Yeah, okay. They're not going to talk much more about it. But, yeah, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, is no longer allowed to protect the environment if it hurts profits. Basically, if you go over the court documents and all of that, it basically says the EPA does not have the power to regulate greenhouse gas emissions from power plants and certain factories, and that either state government or the actual plants and factories are in charge of their own emissions. Basically, hey, Fed boys, fuck you. Power plants, we trust you to do what's right. Yeah, we all know that's not going to fucking work because they're just going to not enforce it, right? One, if best case scenario in this, now that this happened, the state is going to be the ones in charge of greenhouse gas emissions. Um, the case comes out of West Virginia, meaning it's a state heavily dependent on, still to this day, its coal output. So they're going to just allow a lot more lobbying from a lot bigger fossil fuel agencies and companies, and it's just going to curb any cuts at all to the emissions, meaning they're just not going to do shit. And if it allows plants and factories to, hold themselves accountable, they won't do that either. And that's probably more likely the case at this point. So, yeah, it's not going to be great. Because now that, that's basically saying to the criminal, hey, yeah, you committed the crime. You choose your own punishment. You can literally choose whatever punishment you want. What's that criminal going to do? He's going to choose the bare minimum to no punishment. And that's basically what's going to happen because of this ruling with fossil fuel, emitting factories and power plants. Because, yeah, that would, now they have no one to hold them accountable, which is awesome. This is great. I love it. I don't. This is all sarcasm, clearly. But, yeah. When this happened, there was a very supportive group of people on Twitter for some reason who were just like, yes, 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 yes. Down with the bureaucracy. Now we finally get some real freedom. Like, bro, what the fuck? Like, honestly, I wonder if I could find those tweets. I really want to know if I can find them. Aha. I did find it. Let's see if these replies are still here. Yes, they are. They absolutely are. So here's the tweet, that talking about it. And then immediately just, bureaucrats don't rule us. Yes. W right out the gate. Let's fucking go. Power to the people. Yes, this is awesome. Greatest SCOTUS ever. What does this mean for the three-letter agencies? They just keep hitting home runs. And yeah, so much winning. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go. The EPA has no place in the Constitution. Therefore, it has no power to enforce. But yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So a lot of people who are just like saying, "Fuck bureaucracy. This is true freedom," even though 9 unappointed people just overturned the power of a law that was passed by people who were voted. Meaning, the Supreme Court, the ultimate bureaucrats, people who are appointed for life, who you don't even get a chance to vote for, made the decision, and they're like, fuck yeah. Bureaucracy sucks. Like, they don't see the irony, and it's so fucking ridiculous. I love it. I love it. But the EPA is making plans to work around this. Thank God. They're being proactive. Good. But yeah, I just thought it's so fucking funny. These people are just saying, fuck bureaucrats, even though they're cheering on the giga bureaucrats, It irony is it's lost on them. They don't know. They just don't fucking know. But yeah, the last case that came out Thursday was probably the one people were talking about the most on the news. It is the Supreme Court sides with the Biden administration for the asylum laws. Supreme Court sides with the Biden administration in Remain in Mexico case. The U.S. Supreme Court handled the Biden administration a victory, allowing to rescind the Trump-era Remain in Mexico policy. The vote was 5-4. Huh. Weird that it's not the 6-3 that it usually is. There's nothing to look into to that. It's just the only one. There's a little bit to look into, don't worry. Vote was 5-4. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the court's opinion and was joined by Justice Brett Kavanaugh and the court's 3 liberals. Justice Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Nora Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett dissented. The Trump-era policy required asylum seekers, mainly from Central and South America, to either be detained in the U.S. or sent to Mexico, where they had to live in squalid camps while they wait for months or years to have their asylum claims reviewed. Last June, the Biden administration tried to end the policy formerly known as the Migrant Protection Protocols, but federal district Judge Matthew Kacsmaryk, a Trump appointee, ordered that the administration to restart the program, and the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals agreed. On Thursday, the Supreme Court sided with the administration. A major criticism of the Remain in Mexico program was that even the Trump administration could not meet the demands of its own policy. The reason is that Congress never allocated enough money to detain all the asylum claimants. In fact, no administration had been able to comply with this aspect of federal immigration laws since it took effect in 1996. What does that mean? Basically, the process for being an asylum seeker in the U.S. for the majority of its history following World War II was that you come across the border or you come into America, claim, I'm here on asylum, and you get to stay here while they process that claim. Mainly to keep you safe, because before World War II, that was not the policy. And there was a lot of people who could have been saved who were killed because of it. Because I wonder what happened in World War II. Well, basically, a lot of Jewish people were trying to get into the country, but since they were not, registered asylum seekers yet, had to remain outside the country within the country they applied for asylum from, which did not go great for them. If you can imagine that, because they were living in areas controlled by Nazi Germany. So when that happened, we eventually changed our laws and recognized that was stupid. So we allowed them to come into the country, process their asylum. If they were granted, they stay. If they weren't granted it, they were kicked out. Which means, yeah, it's pretty cut and dry. But until recent years, we said, fuck that. That's not how we're going to do it anymore. Now you have to remain in a different country while we try to process that. Meaning, the mass influx of immigrants no longer coming from Europe, but now coming from Central, South, and America and Mexico, meant some people didn't have some savory thoughts about the old asylum policy. But now, in recent years, immigration started coming from Central America mainly. So, because of that, the more recent administration started saying, hey, instead of waiting for your asylum here, wait in Mexico. Meaning, if you were coming from like El Salvador, you have to wait in the country next to America to be let into America if your asylum's granted, which takes months, years. It takes a while, which is why we were keeping people in the U.S., because if we told them to stay where it was dangerous, they were going to be in danger, simple stuff. Basically, if you don't know what asylum is, you're basically escaping from danger and you want to enter a new country to be gone from the danger. So, yeah. We were trying to keep them away from that danger by keeping them here while we process those claims. But now we're putting them in Mexico for some reason. And Mexico did not like it at all. They did not like it. You know, because they were like, what the fuck? All these people are here now trying to get into your fucking country, but you stick them with us. They don't want to be here. It's better than their other country, I guess. But shit, what the fuck's your policy? Oh, you're going to send us money to make camps over here and in Texas for them to wait at? Okay. Fuck. And basically, these camps were not getting enough funding, if any funding. It's where you see these people with like the fucking aluminum foil blankets and then the children in cages and all that shit. You see, that's where all of this is coming from. And the Supreme Court said, yeah, it's just cheaper to do it the way we were doing it to begin with. They didn't even say, like, no moral arguments, saying, like, we're violating people's rights and all that, and we're going against laws that we have put into place. They just literally went, it's too expensive to do it the way we were just doing it. Let's go back to the old way. Which, I'm not a fan of the reasoning, but hey, it worked. So, it's the one Supreme Court dub we've gotten out of this week. Which is kind of nice, you know. We've been handed 3 L's and a W. I was about to say let's be grateful, but no, we should have been handed 4 dubs. Only in America, where a fertilized egg can have more rights than the person giving birth to it, than Native Americans, than immigrants just trying to make a better life, and than the people trying to protect the environment. I love it here. Greatest country in the world. Happy 4th of July, everybody.